I still remember that sticky summer evening, rolling back into my hometown windows, cracked just enough to let the smell of magnolia drift in. My name's Mariah Carter. Most folks here used to know me as Little Ree, the teacher's kid who ran track and never looked back once she left for the Army. 30 years later, 4 stars on my shoulders, I came home for one reason only: to bury my mother. I thought I could slip in, quietly pay my respects, and be gone by sunrise. But the truth is, you can't outrun the ghosts of a place that raised you, and you can't hide your rank from people who hate what it represents. The funeral had been tense, like walking into a room with a live wire dangling from the ceiling. Half the crowd, older black church women veterans and kids I used to tutor, looked at me with proud eyes. The other half, bankers, city officials, the same white men who ran the county back when segregation signs hung over diners, looked like they'd just swallowed bad whiskey. Reverend Jones tried to pull me aside, whispering, "Mariah, honey, just keep your head down while you're here. For everybody's sake." I smiled, kissed my Aunt Louise on the cheek, and thought, you don't get to tell a general to look at her boots. Driving away from the funeral home, I passed the park where my mother once led voter registration drives, the courthouse, where she fought for equal textbooks, the diner that still served black customers from a side window until well into the 90s. It felt like time hadn't moved an inch except for the deeper cracks in the sidewalks. I was lost in that history when the flash of blue lights filled my mirror. I pulled over, took a deep breath, and put my military ID on the dashboard. Old habits. Always let them see your hands. 2 officers swaggered up, Bradley Henley and Connor Miles. Sunglasses at dusk, heavy flashlights, swinging like they were weapons already. Evening, I said, steady and neutral. "I'm General Mariah Carter, United States Army. My ID's right there with my registration." Bradley smirked. "General, huh? That's cute. Plain dress up for the funeral," Connor laughed under his breath. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am." I didn't move. "On what grounds?" I asked. That was enough to make Bradley's face tighten. He grabbed my arm, slammed me against the hood, and hissed, "Grounds is whatever I say it is." His partner yanked my wrist, snapping on cuffs. I tasted blood where my lips split against the metal. A young woman on the sidewalk raised her phone. Connor snatched it, smashed it on the pavement. "Anybody else?" he barked. The crowd went still. All I could think was, keep breathing, count every detail to survive the next minute. In the holding cell, they tried to break me with silence. Connor leaned against the bars, twirling his keys. "Comfortable, General?" he mocked. "Sure beats the Pentagon, huh?" I didn't respond. I just stared at him until his smile twitched. "I'd like to make my phone call now," I said. "To your fancy lawyer," he sneered. "To the Pentagon," I said, and that one sentence felt like dropping a match into a room full of bombs. He hesitated, then shrugged. "Fine. Not like it'll help you." I dialed a number from memory. "Colonel Harris," I said when he picked up. "I'm being held at the Millwood Police Department. Excessive force during a traffic stop. Officers Henley and Miles. I recommend immediate oversight." Silence then. "Give me 30 minutes. Harris said, his voice like steel. "Don't say another word to anyone." Back at the station, phones started ringing one after another. Sergeants barking orders, faces paling. Connor unlocked my cuffs with hands that shook. "Just a misunderstanding," he mumbled. They delivered me to my mother's house with a forced smile, acting like they hadn't tried to crush me on Main Street. Aunt Louise begged me to leave town. But standing in the kitchen under those yellow curtains I'd stared at as a kid, I knew leaving was never an option again. That night, my old friend Marcus Lee came over. He'd been a local reporter for years, digging at the rot under the town's polite surface. He dropped a stack of files on the table: hospital records, complaints, obituaries. "Same 2 cops, Mariah," he said quietly. "And the chief's covering for them. This goes all the way to City Hall." Our conversation was cut short by a text someone had spray-painted slurs all over my mother's grave. By the time I got there, flowers were trampled, her name defaced in red paint. My knees buckled. All the discipline in the world couldn't stop that sound that came out of me. Rage. Grief. A promise. We started pulling at the threads. A young attorney named Jasmine Cole joined us, sneaking us into basement archives, showing how court cases were misfiled or disappeared. We found financial records tying the mayor and the police chief to a private prison company. Every folder we opened made my hands shake harder. This wasn't a few bad cops. This was a machine designed to crush my people and make money off their suffering. When we met with Darnell Williams, a deacon now in a wheelchair, after a traffic stop, he whispered, "They watch this street, but your mama helped me hide these." He handed me an envelope stuffed with photographs. Officers posing with bloody batons, falsified reports with the chief's signature. Proof, the attack came minutes later, rocks through Darnell's windows, spray-painted threats, tires squealing off. We scrambled out with the evidence, knowing we were being followed. Marcus glanced in the mirror. No plates. They're tailing us. Good, I said. Let them watch. We're done hiding. That night, we filled First Baptist Church with everyone who'd ever felt the sting of a badge used like a weapon. I stood at the pulpit and told them they tried to break me on Main Street, but all they did was break their own mask. I held up the photos. People gasped, some cried, others started filming. Reverend Jones, who'd once told me to stay quiet, stepped up to the mic and said, "Silence is its own kind of violence. This church stands with General Carter." The crowd roared, candles flickered, and for the first time in decades, fear shifted to fury. But the machine wasn't done. They jumped Marcus behind the warehouse district, left him with broken ribs and a punctured lung. They planted drugs in Jasmine's car, or arrested her on trumped-up charges. They leaked edited body cam footage to make me look like a rogue soldier gone off the rails. I sat in my mother's living room, watching the lies pour out of the TV, gripping my cap so hard the brim bent. Aunt Louise whispered, "Please stop before they kill you." But I'd spent my life fighting enemies overseas. I wasn't about to surrender to a county courthouse. I called in the veterans. Men and women who'd served under me, who knew how to run comms, secure evidence, protect witnesses. We turned the church basement into an operations center. Maps of the town on the wall, encrypted backups of every file, secure phone lines. People streamed in, nurses, teachers, clerks, each with a piece of the puzzle. We built a case they couldn't bury. The showdown came at the Civic Center under glaring TV lights. Chief Donovan and Mayor Cole sat smug at their table, spinning the usual lines about one misunderstanding and outside agitators. When my turn came, I nodded to my team. Screens flickered to life, showing the raw footage, me calmly handing over my ID, then being slammed, kicked, cuffed, their own radio chatter ordering clean it up. Gasps rippled through the hall. Financial records appeared on screen, shell companies' kickbacks, a quota system tied to private prison profits. Then the audio clips played the chief's voice bragging about keeping cells full, the mayor joking about consulting fees. Reporters surged forward, senators shouted for order, and finally the lead investigator said, "Federal marshals take them into custody." Watching those two men led away in cuffs felt less like victory and more like exhaling after holding my breath for decades. This wasn't just about me. It was about every kid, every parent, every family who'd lived under their thumb. But the fight didn't end with the arrests. We launched the Carter Justice Foundation at my mother's restored grave, her name scrubbed clean and surrounded by flowers left by townspeople. We pledged legal aid for victims, scholarships for kids of the incarcerated, training for citizens to know their rights. One by one, people stepped up, donating $10 a month, offering volunteer hours tutoring after school. It wasn't just a foundation, it was a promise. When I stood at that podium, looking out over a crowd that crossed every line this town used to enforce, black and white, young and old, veterans and civilians, felt my mother's presence like a hand on my shoulder. This was the same woman who once told me, "Baby dignity isn't what they take from you, it's what they can't touch." In that moment, I believed her. I looked over at Marcus' camera hanging from his neck, still limping, but grinning, and at Jasmine scribbling down names for the class action suits. We'd taken their weapon of fear and turned it into fuel. I'm not naive. I know systems like this don't collapse in a day. I know new names will rise to replace the old ones we just brought down. But now the town has tasted its own power. They've seen that when you stand up together, even a 4-star general isn't alone. I'm telling you this not because it's a neat story tied with a bow, but because it's still unfolding. Somewhere out there, another small-town department is running the same playbook. Another family's bearing another kid. Another community's wondering if it's worth the risk to speak up. So if you're listening, if you've ever been pulled over for no reason, watched someone get humiliated because of who they are, or stayed silent when you knew it was wrong, I want you to think about this. What would you do? Would you keep your head down? Or would you pick up the phone and call in the truth? Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what justice looks like where you live. Tell me if you've ever seen power used like a weapon and dreamed of pushing back. Because this isn't just my fight, it's ours. And the more we talk about it, the less they can pretend it isn't happening.